What if the person who holds the key to saving your family's legacy isn't a business expert or a marketing guru, but the man who delivers your packages every day? We're taught to believe that success comes from expensive consultants and sophisticated strategies. But what if the most powerful insights are hiding in plain sight, delivered by someone we barely notice? This isn't just another small business success story. This is a true story that challenges everything we think we know about where wisdom really lives. It's about a family bakery on the brink of collapse after 60 years, and the delivery driver who saw something everyone else missed. The most surprising part? The solution wasn't about changing the product, but about delivering the existing magic to the right people at the right time. We promise you a reward that has nothing to do with business plans or profit margins. The reward is a new way of seeing the people who move through your life unnoticed, and understanding that they often hold perspectives that can transform everything. Get ready for an emotional story where flour-dusted hands and a delivery uniform become the uniform of hope, and where a working-class hero proves that sometimes the most valuable deliveries aren't in the boxes, but in the connections we make along the way. Now, let me tell you about Diego. Though if you live in Oakwood Heights, you've definitely seen him, you just never really saw him. He was that delivery driver who showed up like clockwork, the guy with the warm smile who knew everyone's schedule better than they did themselves. For 8 years, he'd navigated the same streets, watching families grow, businesses flourish and struggle, becoming the neighborhood's unofficial historian without anyone even realizing it. This wasn't just a job. It was a masterclass in community storytelling from the driver's seat of a beat-up delivery van. You see, Diego understood something most people miss. Delivery drivers are like the circulatory system of a neighborhood. They see which houses get endless packages and which get disconnect notices, which businesses have constant traffic, and which have for lease signs gathering dust. He carried more than packages. He carried the pulse of the community, witnessing real-life dramas unfold one doorstep at a time. Now that's a perspective you can't buy with any amount of money. Here's where it gets fascinating, my friend. Diego had developed this incredible skill. He noticed patterns that even the people living them missed. He knew when Mrs. Gable's medication deliveries increased, when the Rodriguez family started getting baby formula instead of college textbooks, when the Oliveira Bakery's supply orders got smaller and smaller. He was a living database of the neighborhood's heartbeat, a working-class sage with a front-row seat to the human drama of everyday life. But let me ask you something. When's the last time you truly noticed the invisible people in your own community? Tomorrow, try this simple practice. Learn the name of your delivery person, your mail carrier, the person who cleans your office building. Ask them one question about what they've observed lately. You'll be amazed at the life lessons hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to ask the right questions. Of course, Diego's sharp eyes were about to lead him into a situation that would test everything he believed about community and responsibility. The Oliveira Family Bakery, a neighborhood institution for 3 generations, was clearly in trouble. The flour deliveries had dwindled to almost nothing. The help wanted sign had faded in the window, and old man Oliveira's shoulders looked heavier each time Diego made a delivery. But this particular Tuesday, Diego noticed something different, something that would change everything. The Oliveira Bakery had always been the heart of the neighborhood, a place where the smell of fresh bread meant everything was right with the world. But lately, the scent had grown faint, the windows less bright, and the customers fewer. Old man Oliveira, a Portuguese immigrant who'd built the business from nothing, now moved through his shop with the heavy steps of a man watching his life's work crumble. His son Marco, who was supposed to take over, had moved to the city for a real job, leaving his father to face the corporate coffee chain that had opened across the street alone. Now, here's where Diego's immigrant stories of struggle resonated deeply. He saw in Mr. Oliveira the same determined pride he'd seen in his own father, that stubborn refusal to ask for help even when drowning. The bakery wasn't just a business. It was a piece of the old country, a repository of family recipes and generations of love. Watching it fail felt like watching a library burn down with all its stories still inside, another chapter in the real-life drama of small businesses versus corporate giants. What Diego observed over the next few weeks broke his heart. Mr. Oliveira would stand in his empty shop, polishing already clean counters, rearranging pastries that nobody bought. The corporate coffee shop across the street had a constant line, while the bakery's traditional recipes gathered dust. It was a classic David and Goliath story, but David had arthritis and Goliath had a marketing budget that could buy a small country. This emotional story was playing out in real time, and Diego felt like the only audience member. But here's a life lesson about crisis. Sometimes the biggest opportunities are hidden inside our biggest problems. Diego started paying closer attention. He noticed that the corporate shop attracted mostly students and young professionals, while the older neighborhood residents still preferred the bakery but came less frequently. He saw that the bakery's social media was practically non-existent, while the chain had influencers posting daily. The problem wasn't the product, it was the connection to a changing neighborhood. One rainy Thursday, Diego made his delivery to find Mr. Oliveira sitting at one of his own tables, head in his hands, an eviction notice lying beside him. The building had been sold to developers, and the bakery had 30 days to vacate. 60 years of history, 3 generations of tradition, wiped out by a single piece of paper. Diego placed the flour sacks quietly on the counter, his mind racing. He couldn't just deliver the ingredients and watch the dream die. Some truths are too heavy to carry alone, yet too important to ignore. That night, Diego couldn't sleep. The image of Mr. Oliveira's defeated shoulders haunted him. He lay awake, mentally retracing his delivery route, the patterns he'd observed, the conversations he'd overheard. And then it hit him, not like a lightning bolt, but like a series of puzzle pieces clicking into place. The corporate coffee shop had lines out the door, but their pastries sat untouched under glass domes. Meanwhile, the neighborhood's foodie Instagram was filled with complaints about soulless, corporate baked goods. The demand was there, the connection was missing. Now, here's where Diego's unique position as a delivery driver gave him an advantage nobody else had. He realized he wasn't just delivering packages. He was delivering to every food blogger, every young professional, every new family moving into the gentrifying neighborhood. He had access to the very people who craved authentic experiences but didn't know the bakery existed. This wasn't just a business problem. It was a communication breakdown in this modern human drama of old versus new. What's fascinating is how Diego's working-class perspective revealed solutions the experts missed. While marketing firms would have suggested expensive ad campaigns, Diego noticed something simpler. The corporate shop charged $7 for croissants that tasted like cardboard, while the bakery's heavenly versions were only $2.50. The problem wasn't quality or price, it was perception and accessibility. The bakery was a hidden gem, and the neighborhood had forgotten how to find it. Here's a practical insight you can use in your own life. Sometimes the solution to a big problem isn't a grand gesture, but connecting existing dots everyone else is missing. If you're facing a challenge at work or home, try this. Make 3 lists: what you have, what people need, and who can bridge the gap between them. You might discover, like Diego did, that the resources you need are already within reach, waiting for someone to make the connection. Armed with this revelation, Diego spent his weekend doing something that would have seemed crazy to anyone watching. He created a simple map of the neighborhood, marking every food influencer, every young family, every office that regularly ordered catering. He noted their preferences, their schedules, their patterns. He was preparing to become the bridge between a dying tradition and its waiting audience. But first, he had to convince a proud old man to accept help from the most unlikely of sources, the delivery driver he barely noticed. The following Monday, Diego walked into the bakery with more than his usual delivery. His heart pounded as he approached Mr. Oliveira, who was methodically wiping down counters that already gleamed. "Mr. Oliveira," Diego began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I have an idea that might help save the bakery." The old man looked up, his eyes skeptical but curious. In that moment, the invisible delivery driver stepped into the spotlight of this real-life drama. Diego spread his handmade map across the counter, pointing to the clusters of marks he'd made. "These are all the people within 10 blocks who want what you have," he explained, his finger tracing routes he knew by heart. "The new families, the food bloggers, the offices that order catering. They're paying triple across the street for pastries that don't compare to yours." He watched as Mr. Oliveira's skepticism slowly turned to reluctant interest, the first spark of hope the bakery had seen in months. Now, here's where most people would have hit a wall. Mr. Oliveira shook his head sadly. "I'm a baker, not a marketer, he said. My son Marco, he understood these things, but he's gone. This is where Diego's immigrant stories of adaptation kicked in. You don't need to change who you are, Diego insisted. You just need to let more people see what you do. Let me be your delivery driver for 1 week. Not just for supplies, but for your story. What happened next became the turning point in this emotional story. Diego pulled out his phone and showed Mr. Oliveira the Instagram accounts of local food influencers, the community forums buzzing with complaints about the corporate chain, the missed connections between tradition and modern appetite. He wasn't asking the baker to change his recipes or lower his prices. He was proposing to deliver his existing excellence to the right doorsteps. Sometimes salvation doesn't require reinvention, just better navigation. Mr. Oliveira looked from the glowing screen to his quiet shop, then back to Diego's earnest face. 1 week, he finally said, the words heavy with both doubt and desperate hope. We try for 1 week. That simple agreement set in motion a chain of events that would test both men in ways they never expected. Diego had the green light, but now he had to deliver more than promises. He had to prove that a delivery driver could do more than transport goods. He could transport dreams. The first morning of the experiment began before sunrise. Diego arrived at the bakery not in his delivery uniform, but in an apron Mr. Oliveira had set out for him. The old baker moved with a renewed energy, his hands remembering their old magic as he shaped dough that held 3 generations of secrets. Meanwhile, Diego set up his phone on a makeshift tripod, capturing the beautiful, flour-dusted storytelling of a master at work. The way Oliveira's knobby hands braided challah, the precise flick of his wrist when scoring baguettes. As the first batches came out of the oven, Diego got to work. He packaged samples with handwritten notes mentioning specific Instagram food critics' complaints about soulless corporate pastries. He created a simple baker's dozen delivery box for offices, featuring 13 different pastries with stories about their Portuguese origins. He even convinced Mr. Oliveira to include his grandmother's recipe card with each order, turning pastries into inspirational artifacts of culinary heritage. The bakery wasn't just selling food anymore. It was selling connection. Now, here's where the magic happened. By noon, Diego's carefully targeted deliveries had sparked something extraordinary. Food bloggers who received the samples started posting side-by-side comparisons, the corporate croissant versus Oliveira's version. Office workers who tasted the baker's dozen began placing group orders for meetings. The neighborhood's social media feeds, once dominated by the chain's slick marketing, now buzzed with authentic photos of the old baker at work, his face glowing with pride as he performed his edible artistry. But the real breakthrough came when Marco, Oliveira's son, saw his father trending on local food blogs. He called the bakery, his voice choked with emotion. "Hi, I had no idea," he stammered. "The videos, the stories. I thought you were just making the same old things." The human drama of a father and son reconnecting over rescued family legacy became the most powerful marketing of all, proving that some true stories write themselves when given the chance. By the end of the week, the line at Oliveira's bakery stretched out the door for the first time in years. But success, as they soon discovered, comes with its own challenges. The corporate coffee chain across the street took notice of their revived competitor and launched an aggressive counter-campaign. The battle for the neighborhood's heart was just beginning, and Diego's 1-week experiment was about to turn into something much bigger than anyone anticipated. The corporate chain's response was swift and brutal: 50% off all pastries, targeted social media ads, and even a neighborhood heritage rebranding that felt painfully artificial. For a moment, it seemed David's slingshot might not be enough against Goliath's marketing budget. But then something beautiful happened in this real-life drama. The community that had rediscovered the bakery decided they wouldn't lose it again. They'd tasted authentic connection, and no discount could compete with that. Customers who'd received Diego's deliveries started showing up with their own ideas. A graphic designer offered to create proper branding, a web developer built an online ordering system, and Marco, Oliveira's son, announced he was moving back to help his father full-time. The bakery was no longer just a business. It had become the neighborhood's heart again, a living testament to the power of community in this emotional story of resilience. The working class had become the ruling class of local commerce. What happened next proves that one person's courage can inspire an entire community to remember its own power. The neighborhood association organized a shop local Saturday that drew hundreds of people. Food critics published pieces about the bakery that refused to die, and the corporate chain, despite its deep pockets, couldn't manufacture the genuine history that Oliveira's embodied. Sometimes the most powerful marketing isn't what you say, but the storytelling that emerges when people care. Now, here's the beautiful conclusion to this inspirational tale. The developers who owned the building, seeing the bakery's transformation and community support, offered Mr. Oliveira a long-term lease with favorable terms. "We want authentic businesses that build community value," they explained. The bakery wasn't saved by one person alone, but by a cascade of courage that started with a delivery driver who decided to see more than just addresses on his route. The story doesn't end there, of course. Diego continues his delivery route, but now with a new purpose and the deep respect of everyone in the neighborhood. Mr. Oliveira and Marco work side by side, blending tradition with innovation. And every morning when the bakery doors open, the line outside serves as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful deliveries aren't packages, but hope, connection, and the courage to believe that one person can indeed make all the difference. So what happens when we finally see the invisible threads that connect us all? This story isn't really about a bakery or a delivery driver. It's about that moment we realize that every person we encounter holds a piece of the puzzle, and that community isn't just a place, but a living, breathing network of mutual support and recognition. The real treasure Diego discovered wasn't in his delivery route. It was an understanding that we're all delivery drivers of sorts, carrying kindness, attention, and possibility to each other every day. And the real victory wasn't just saving a business, but proving that when we dare to see each other fully, we can create miracles that no amount of money could ever buy. Now I want you to consider this. Who are the invisible experts in your own life? Maybe it's the barista who remembers everyone's order and could probably teach a masterclass in customer service, or the maintenance person who knows more about your building's history than anyone, or the delivery driver who sees the changing patterns of your neighborhood. What wisdom might they hold that you've been overlooking? If this story inspired you to see the hidden wisdom around you, we've created a practical guide, Everyday Experts, Finding Wisdom in Unexpected Places. The link is waiting for you in the first pinned comment. We'd love to hear from you. Who is an everyday expert in your life who surprised you with their wisdom? Have you ever discovered a simple solution that everyone else was overcomplicating? What's one small business in your community that deserves to be rediscovered? Share your stories in the comments below. Your experience might help someone see their community with new eyes. If these stories of everyday connection matter to you, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this with someone who needs reminding that we're all in this together. Because the truth is, we're all delivery drivers of hope, and sometimes the most important package we can deliver is simply paying attention.